They built a billion-dollar empire on a bottle of vodka that wasn't really vodka. And when it all collapsed, not because the product failed, but because the man they borrowed their entire identity from got arrested on federal racketeering charges. Diageo, one of the most powerful spirits companies on earth, did something nobody reported properly. They didn't just walk away, they swamped it, like a used car. A brand that once generated over $400 million a year traded for a tequila most people have never heard of. That is the real story of Ciroc. And it's not the marketing success story you've been sold. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a corporate giant used a loophole, used a celebrity, used an entire culture, and then abandoned the wreckage the moment it became inconvenient. Stay with me, because the first twist hits in about 60 seconds. Let's go back to 2003. Grey Goose had just proven something that broke the alcohol industry's brain. You could charge $40 for vodka. Not because it tasted better, blind taste tests showed it often didn't, but because if you dressed it French, gave it a sleek bottle, and whispered the word luxury loudly enough, consumers would line up. Diageo saw this and wanted in. Diageo, by the way, is a British multinational. Think of them as the silent landlord of your bar. They own Johnny Walker, Guinness, Captain Morgan, Don Julio, and about 100 other brands you drink without knowing who's behind them. This is a company with a market cap in the tens of billions. They know what they're doing. So their team approached a small French distillery and gave one instruction. Build us something that feels premium, different, luxurious, something that can compete with Grey Goose. The answer that came back was grapes. Now here's where the story gets interesting and slightly illegal adjacent. Vodka, by definition in the United States, means a neutral spirit without distinctive character, taste, aroma, or color. The law doesn't specify what it has to be made from. Grain, potatoes, beets, technically anything. Diageo's legal team spotted this gap immediately. If you take grapes, which are normally used for wine or brandy, and distill them 5 times until every trace of flavor is stripped out, you can, technically, legally, call it vodka. So they did, and they named it Ciroc. That legal loophole was clever, but what happened next was not. Diageo launched Ciroc in 2003 with a straightforward strategy: copy Grey Goose. Same French origin story, same premium bottle design, same ultra-premium price point, same celebrity push, same nightclub placement. The problem? Grey Goose already existed. And in any market, the consumer's mind can only hold one brand per category. When you show up second with the same pitch, you don't become the alternative, you become the reminder that the original exists. But there was a second, deeper problem: the grape thing. Diageo actually leaned into it. Their ads said things like, distilled from fine French grapes. They ran the grape angle as a differentiator. The logic made sense on paper. Grapes signal luxury. They cost more. Grape-based drinks, wine, champagne, cognac, are all prestige products. Except vodka drinkers don't think about grapes. When someone orders a premium vodka, their mental frame is grain, potatoes, maybe wheat. Clean, neutral, pure. The moment you say made from grapes, their brain does something uncomfortable. It asks, is this actually wine? Is this a brandy in disguise? Is this even real vodka? That confusion is brand poison. Because a confused customer doesn't buy, they just move on. 5 years in, Ciroc was averaging 40,000 cases a year in the United States. For reference, Grey Goose was doing millions. Diageo had poured enormous resources into this product: production, distribution, national ad campaigns, and it was going nowhere. They had a decision to make, and the decision they made is the part that almost nobody talks about honestly. Enter Sean Combs, 2007. At this point, Diddy isn't just a celebrity, he's a cultural institution. Music mogul, fashion brand owner, party host to the most photographed events on the East Coast. He is, in the language of marketing, an aspirational symbol, a living shortcut to status. Diageo approached him with a deal unlike anything the industry had seen before. Not a standard endorsement, not a flat fee to hold the bottle in a photo shoot, a partnership. 50% of all U.S. profits from Ciroc in exchange for his marketing work. No ownership stake in the brand itself, just half the cash flow. If Ciroc failed, Diddy lost nothing. If it succeeded, Diageo and Diddy split the upside. Now here's the uncomfortable question Diageo never had to answer publicly. Did they fully understand what they were buying into? Diddy's entire brand was built on a specific culture: hip-hop, black excellence, nightlife, aspiration from the streets up. This was not the Grey Goose audience. This was a completely different world. And Diageo, a British corporate giant that had previously marketed Ciroc as French luxury, was now effectively outsourcing the entire brand identity to one man. They knew what they were doing, because the numbers prove it. What happened next was one of the fastest brand turnarounds in alcohol history. Diddy didn't market grape vodka. He buried the grape story entirely. He started marketing success. Every red carpet appearance, he held Ciroc. Every music video, Ciroc was visible. He created the White Party in the Hamptons, an all-white dress code event that generated more media coverage than most national ad campaigns. He recruited Drake, Rick Ross, French Montana, all appearing publicly with the bottle. But here's the part that made the whole machine work. He didn't just sell to consumers. He sold to club owners. Free cases flooded into high-end venues. Bartenders were trained on Ciroc cocktails. Bottle service presentations were designed specifically around Ciroc. Sparklers, dry ice, theatrical entrances that made a $100 bottle feel like it was worth 3 times that. The numbers that followed were almost impossible to believe. 2007, before the partnership, 40,000 cases. 2008, 200,000. 2010, 1 million. 2012, 2.4 million cases. That is roughly 6,000% growth in 5 years. Nothing changed about the liquid. The grapes were still there. The legal loophole was still in play. The only thing that changed was the story being told around the bottle. Diddy personally earned over $60 million per year from this arrangement at its peak. He never invested a dollar into the brand. He just showed up and people followed. This is where Diageo should have been asking a very serious question. What happens if he goes away? They weren't asking, because the money was too good. Cracks started appearing before most people noticed. In 2023, Diddy filed a lawsuit against Diageo himself. The allegation? That Diageo had deliberately underfunded Ciroc in his tequila brand De Leon, that the company had internally categorized them as ethnic brands or urban brands, meaning they received less marketing investment, less distribution support, less executive attention than Diageo's predominantly white audience brands like Don Julio and Casamigos. Think about what that means for a second. The man who single-handedly saved Ciroc from irrelevance was now accusing the company that profited from his work of treating his brands as second-class products. The lawsuit was settled quickly. No details were disclosed publicly. Diageo and Combs announced they had resolved all disputes in January 2024. The legal noise went quiet. But something bigger was already in motion. In November 2023, Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former girlfriend, filed a civil lawsuit with allegations that were severe. Diddy denied everything. The case settled within 24 hours for an undisclosed sum. Most companies would have started quietly distancing themselves at that point. Diageo moved to cut ties in January 2024. But the internet doesn't forget, and consumer psychology doesn't reset. September 2024, federal agents arrest Sean Combs in New York City. The indictment is sweeping. Racketeering charges, sex trafficking, a federal case that dominated news cycles globally for weeks. Overnight, the man whose face had been synonymous with Ciroc for 17 years became the story nobody wanted attached to their product. Diageo moved quickly. Campaigns disappeared. Social media posts scrubbed. Press photos pulled. 17 years of co-branding, erased as fast as a team of lawyers could manage it. But there was a problem they couldn't erase. The brand had no identity without him. Grey Goose means French elegance. Tito's means American craftsmanship, made by hand in Texas. Belvedere means Polish heritage. Ciroc meant Diddy. It had always meant Diddy. That was the trade-off Diageo made in 2007. Give up brand independence in exchange for explosive growth. In the fiscal year ending June 2024, Ciroc's net sales in North America fell 28%. By early 2025, further results showed the brand down 32% in organic sales, the worst performance of any major brand in Diageo's entire portfolio. For context, That's not a brand in decline. That's a brand in free fall. December 2024. Bloomberg reports that Diageo is quietly shopping Ciroc to potential buyers. No press conference, no public announcement, just private conversations with potential acquirers, gauging whether anyone wanted to take on the brand and its baggage. Nobody did. A brand that once printed hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenue was being passed around back rooms like a liability. And then, in April 2025, Diageo made its final move. They traded Ciroc. Not sold, traded. The North American rights to Ciroc went into a joint venture in exchange for a majority stake in Lobo 1707, a tequila brand backed by LeBron James through an investment firm called Main Street Advisors. LeBron James, the next celebrity, the next cultural shortcut. Diageo wasn't learning a lesson. They were running the same play with a different face. Here's what the official story leaves out. Diageo built an empire on a brand they knew was structurally fragile. They knew Ciroc's entire value proposition was tied to one person. They profited massively from that arrangement for over a decade. When the association became toxic, they erased it and immediately moved to replicate the same model with a different celebrity in a different spirits category. The brand that hundreds of thousands of people bought, the bottle that became a symbol of success in an entire cultural movement, discarded, traded for a tequila most Americans have never tasted. And the legal loophole? The grape distillate that technically qualifies as vodka under U.S. law? Still in the bottle, still being sold. The liquid never changed. The only question is whether the next celebrity can make you forget that. Because if history is any guide, Diageo is betting they can. The brands you trust most are often the ones whose owners understand one thing above everything else. Perception is cheaper to manufacture than quality. And once you know that, you can never look at a bottle on a shelf the same way again.